Welcome back to the broadcast. We still proceed with the conversation at hand. Still in studio, James Kikuyus, that is the Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. We still have Daniel Orogo, governance expert, and equally another governance expert, Irungu Goko, as we ponder on what is happening in terms of matters governance, well, and generally politics of the nation. To you, Dan Orogo, and the proposal that Irungu comes aboard with. Well, not really much to delve into that. And I mean, we always have that opportunity to speak out and say some of the things that would come in to solve this. But do you suppose it would come in handy as opposed to going to, those Kenyans again, to pinch them harder at a time when they're struggling with the cost of living, at a time when they're not even able to afford 3 meals a day, no, let alone one. And, you speak of extending this from 1.5 trillion to 1.7 trillion that will just go down to them?
Well, I think I had my colleague talking about this, and it's so important that we envision that the financing of our budget would be done through local sources, and that taxing citizens and taxing businesses, and that actually accrue the revenue that we need.
Yeah.
In the context of what the country is facing right now. One is to determine whether, even in the consideration of taxing, like he mentioned, we really have to envision that we only tax probably businesses that are existing. You could actually see the sources that I've said ever since we were hit by COVID. The number of businesses are stalled. Some families, are going without food, and most of these corporations had actually had to close down.
Yeah.
And that begs the question is, even as we increase the taxes, who are we going to tax actually? That actually a survey that our economic expert would help us to understand, because then if you increase it, it means that the few businesses that are operation, the few corporations that you really want to serve, even the local vendors, my colleague was talking about, it would be very, an archaic task even to tax them to get that revenue. But then there are also some of the cliche that we are not mentioning. The president had been very vocal some times ago and say that, we, as much as we have a projection, but then we are losing it out to massive corruption in public wastage.
Yeah.
And therefore brought to the question about, can we have austerity measures? One, to deal with public wastage, and for the fact that we are introducing measures, even as much as lifestyle auditing,
yeah,
to determine, how is this public servants or civil servants and the leaders, what is the wealth that are there that is not really accountable for? But again, like any other public declaration in public holidays, that also went without being without being mentioned. Lastly, I am convinced that the multinational corporations that are evading tax,
yeah,
it becomes a thorny issue, because while you find one way of evading tax each and every regime, by either changing your name or by either having some of not illegal ways to evade tax, I think that is an issue that would really be addressed.
Yeah.
We had a problem with companies like SportPesa before, but I think there are so many that should be made, or should be compelled to come up with their tax information, so that also that adds to the revenue, because I believe the local revenue is becoming a contentious issue in the backdrop of COVID-19 effects.
All right, Mheshimiwa, you've had that. What, first of all, do you make of these proposals that are fronted right there, and in most cases as proposed, is what will happen?
One what I can say is that in our planning, budget planning and projections,
right,
we feel light from the commencement of the process.
Okay.
Because one, Parliament is taxed by the Constitution to prepare this budget process, but you find it starts from the top down.
Okay.
So it's the executive and cabinet which sits, discuss it, and agree. Then they bring it to Parliament.
Oh.
And then the executive is very cunning on this, that don't change my project.
Is it so?
Don't even amend my project. So it becomes so hard when one hand,
I'm surprised that these gentlemen are just listening to that and not...
On one hand is entrusted, taxed by the Constitution to take that charge, to peruse, to rearrange, and to do what the Parliament thinks it is what Kenyans can be able to enjoy it squarely. But let me tell you, there is a member of Parliament who is in Parliament, and let me tell you, nothing stepped in his constituency in a whole financial year, and is the one who propels the same. Because the way it was placed to the Parliament, that is it. You cannot help him, whether there is single or not. That is it. Doing a single amendment, that committee will be whipped to the house on the hill, right on the spot. So, in fact, what we must do first and foremost is to let the executive should
not
lead
interfere
from the front.
Okay.
And what they must do is to allow people to operationalize their duties under the roof of the Constitution.
Why is it
but
that
not under the influence of sideshows?
Why do members of Parliament succumb to this influence?
I can tell you for sure, Rita, you are not...
I mean, if elected by
I can tell you are not from the space. Just watch. Parties are very strong in what we call National Assembly and Senate. Parties can whip you.
But that's the reason why we elect strong individuals equally to go and counter.
Allow me to explain that.
Yes.
The powers that we give political parties is extraordinary.
Yes.
Something has to be done.
Yes.
Because you'll be whipped by the party the route to go. Failure to go that direction, then you are against the rules of the party.
But the people voted you in, so...
I can tell you, you are supposed to be in the house and vote according to your thought. But yes, to your opinion. Because you may find a situation, this is what I'm going to approve. This requires not to be approved. But the pressure will whip you. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, you'll be known. You never voted with them. Why? The reason why, they are what we call Hansards. The Hansard must report you.
Okay.
So you just find a text in your phone or a letter. So I can tell you, it is that painful, and a process that at least even though the Parliament has power, it does not have it does not enjoy the powers given by the Constitution. That power is being mutilated, and it is mutilated by the executive. So the executive here, they must be flexible, and we must allow judiciary and the legislature to work independently as enshrined in the Constitution. Finally, to finalize with the
with the Treasury.
Can I tell you something,
yes.
Rita? Kenya, I have seen that the BBI has proposal to exonerate or to a bracket or to give what we call a bracket of those youth, what we call entrepreneur, kind of tax break for at least 7 good years.
Okay.
One, what I would like to tell Kenya is that that's a very tricky window, because these youths has no what we call capital, and what are they going to do? They are going to be used by the other clusters. Like, assume here I am, and I am a businessman. When I have somebody who is under 30 years, who will be under that criteria of tax break, who just register the company under his name.
Okay.
And then you enjoy 7 years. After 7 years, you just we just change the director to the junior. Who will fit in that?
And this is some of the things that people are questioning.
And let me tell you, most likely we are going to lose a lot of revenue through that window.
Yes.
What are we supposed to do? In the first place, we are not supposed to bring tax breaks, because actually this country is totally indebted. We need to bring our resources together and then try to fight out how to put out the deep sea we are in, in terms of economy. So what should we do to make sure that our team of youth are being taken care of? Look for, in this budget, look for a kitty, which is a youth kitty, a startup kitty, a capital that will be able to jumpstart these youths.
But we have a couple of them without
bureaucracies that are within the banks. Because once you subject them to the banks, these guys will do nothing, because they have no collaterals there. But look for a mechanism how these people can be able to access this kitty. This kitty, after they get their award letter from any employer, then they can be able to enjoy a certain amount of money. They can be able to execute that job, and at the end end of the day, they can repay and earn something at the end of the day.
All right.
But when you tell them that you are going to give them tax-free, tax holiday,
yes.
I am telling you, there's nothing you are doing. And finally, you are now telling Kenya that you are going to anchor into the constitution that 5% to be decentralized to the counties.
To the counties.
You are unable even to deliver 15% to them. What a miracle are you having in the BBI?
It's in preparation of the good leadership that he has, gentlemen. No, allow this gentleman to counter your argument.
They will have their chance. To finish, let me tell you something. Surely, just check the levels of our economy. Leader, I am telling you, today we are collecting about 1.7 billion.
Yes.
Remove the money we borrow. We are going to repay borrowing. What are we going to be left with? Remove money for counties out of that. Well, how are we going to survive? Are you going to do any single project here in Kenya?
All right. Dan, can you, gentlemen, yes.
You put this country into...
You can counter that.
I can tell you where we are heading.
Allow them to
where we are. We cannot be able to do any single magnitude project unless we borrow. Unless we borrow. And that borrowing will never end forever.
But you see, that is very outrageous. Let me say, because I agree with what Mhesh is talking about. If a leader sitting at the National Assembly can admit that, of course, there had been an interference in the functioning of the legislature, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, then that becomes more worrying.
And we're just about to add, to top up to the number.
We are just about to top up the numbers. I mean, with the virtual, I don't know, it's called the virtual constituencies. So this then brings the question is that what is the level of capacity of our members of the legislature, constructively debating and giving us bills that are, that are helpful to the people, minus the interference from the executive or other arms of the government. Because the Constitution actually envisioned that we are having a legislature that is independent of an interference. That is not reality, according to the admission by Mhesh. But then what do we do as Kenyan citizens, as we, in all these discussions? Because then the committees at the National Assembly are quasi-judicial. In the sense that the powers that are given to the committees are equally the powers that are given to the High Court to expedite matters of court hearing and all the rest. So if this becomes a problem that anybody who tries to argue in the favor of Kenyans are actually de-whipped, then it becomes worrying as we move forward. But then the issues about young people, and I think we'll have some time to talk about the economic policies that are proposed by either sides of BBI or either sides of the hustle. I think that would be very interesting to discuss. But you see the question that we talk about, that I keep on saying, that young people cannot really argue their matters on the value of being a youth. It is not enough to argue that. That becomes the starting point of where you begin, that your discussion is, can we begin because I have been marginalized? How then would you further that? Because within the economic scope, within the participation scope, young people are equally citizens of this country. And you cannot put yourself and lock yourself and say, for me, I think that what I need is to be given a jump starting to become an entrepreneur. What happens to young people who are qualified to be the lawyers of this country? What happens to young people who are qualified to serve as public servants? And this has guided our economic policy. And this must be debunked, Linda. Because the problem that we are having in this country is we think that each and every young person, post-tertiary graduation, post-passing an exam in institution of higher learning, what we need is to become businessmen, is to sweep the streets, is to do all this. There is more that can guide the issues of economic policy on young people. So I think my submission is that we move forward, and agree partly with what Mhesh is talking about, but I take detour. That you see, it is rightfully for us to argue politically now and economically become relevant. Because at the end of 80 years, these people or a certain generation are going to leave us with these debts in this country. And we're going to finance them.
All right.
Let me start by saying Mheshimiwa, I would say, is out of order. Because by the time you went to vie for a parliamentary seat using that political party, one, either you used it as a tool for you to get to parliament without knowing the party policies, the party constitution, and the party structures. Because if you knew it and you subscribed to it, then if that bill, if that budget bill comes from the executive, which is your party, so it practically means you subscribe to that ideology.
All right.
And if you have, if you have a contrary opinion, there are party structures to do it. If it doesn't work,
Okay.
if,
So, you could have gone your independent way, yeah?
yeah, so if you feel,
Yes.
if you feel, and we have seen it in the past,
Okay.
if you feel this party that you subscribe to is no longer working for you, you have two alternatives: resign and seek a fresh mandate, or write a complaint letter. That is number one. Number two, I don't understand why, when we are talking about budget, an MP can complain to being forced to do this. But when it comes to political rallies, they cannot complain that the executive is telling them not to attend.
This political. Somebody else's.
Exactly.
Rally.
So they have joined UDA from Jubilee Party.
Okay.
They are not complaining.
All right.
Neither are they saying that the executive is forcing them not to or to. It is a soft will. Number three, when you talk about youth and tax exemption, this is how I look at it. One, KRA and all the ministry agencies, they are looking at. We have not said every youth running every business will get 7 years exemption. Practically, there will be an act of parliament, there will be guidelines, there will be, all the regulations. If we as Kenyans and everybody involved, let's look at it in this perspective. Why can't we put a cap in and say every young man with a business of capital 100,000 and below, operating within 100,000 and below, enjoys tax exemption for 7 years. If you go above 100,000, you become taxable.
That also we say is something that we can celebrate. But then the question is, we desperately need this revenue. We desperately need to collect this tax.
Which is better?
So which is best?
better?
Actually, which is best?
Which is better? A young man not having, because we are looking at phase number one of government having revenue is by having income generating
activities.
Yes. So that is the incubation part.
Yes.
And this tax exemption is looking at it that way. Can we incubate as many businesses as possible? Instead of that young man being jobless for 7 years, yet she is not paying tax. Why can't we look at it and say, let's start with you. If you start your mkokoteni business, we don't have to come chasing you, asking you for tickets, asking you for revenue.
And this, you suppose, can help, trigger the economy's growth to a point where we'll run away from what it is that Dan speaks about, a scenario where in future we're going to be rendered to a point where we're paying all this debt.
It will be accumulated mess if we don't put a cap in. Because like Mweshimiwa said, and my Freddy is saying, I can use
somebody else,
someone else to accumulate 100 million.
Yes.
But if we put a cap in, I don't see why a millionaire
would want to invest
in a business that has a capping of 100,000. But a jobless youth will find an opportunity in that capping.
Someone would want to ask you, just how much can this come in handy to get you to another level? And you know the value of 100,000 today. And probably that one would want to equate with what it is that you people counter a lot, the hustle nation narrative, the wheelbarrow narrative. And you say, what will a wheelbarrow do to you? Somebody else would probably ask you, what will this amount of money do?
Let's look at it from the youth fund aspect.
Yes.
The youth fund, the Wealth fund, and the women fund, and all those funds in government, they have a capping. So as a youth, you can borrow from 50,000. Then you grow. You can't start from 50 million. If we use the same concept on tax holiday, it will work. But we leave it open. And that's where I think my colleagues are fearing. I'm also of the opinion it must have a capping. If it doesn't have a capping, then we are in for a big mess.
Preferred amount?
Any amount, that depends on the experts.
Okay.
So they can tell us, if you start a business with 100,000, what are the possible taxes? It might amount to 20,000 or maybe to 30,000. If you give me a tax holiday of 20,000 every year for my business that is, accumulating to 100,000. Just imagine this 20,000. One, it goes to other social needs now within my family. So if I was depending on government for bursaries for 2,000, I'm able to pay. If I'm depending for medications, I'm able to pay for NHIF. If I'm depending on, so let's look at it holistically.
Okay. All right, well, hold it right there. Mahesh has a point. Yes, we're not even concluding on this before we discuss.
I can just tell my panelists that, in fact, there's somewhere he has mixed himself. One, in the beginning, he was in the support that actually everybody should be in the basket of paying
tax.
Yes.
The one who sells a kiosk, the KRA should make sure that that somebody is in the list of putting something in the basket.
Right.
A hawker that actually has a shed somewhere is in the list of paying something small. Those are the people we are calling hustlers down there, SMEs. How, if these people you want to harness their tax collection into the basket, why do you want to bring another window to exclude others from putting something in the basket? Yes, and we are the same Kenyans. Does not matter whether this youth has come from school. Probably I am in kiosk. I didn't have an opportunity to go to secondary. I didn't have an opportunity to go to college. So I am hustling in that particular kiosk. Why do you subject me to task? And you're not subjecting the one who has completed the university.
Well, we'd probably want to equate this to the conversation of affirmative action. And Dan, you know very well that for the longest of time, people have questioned whether we should have affirmative action in the first place. And one of the biggest beneficiaries are the youths when we talk matters affirmative action, are the women when we talk matters, and the PWDs. Yeah. And in these scenarios, it has even gotten to, a women, some women speaking of a scenario where we don't want to be given these things for free. We want to go out there and battle it for for aid. So when we have to take these directions of conversations, then we meet at a point where there is so much confusion that cripples in. What would be the best approach to this? Can we run away from affirmative action? Can we run away from empowerment? Can we run away? And I would want to believe that the government does not, intend to have this for the rest of time. They probably just intend to cushion these people for a certain, level or a certain amount of time. And then after a while, after we've been able to, rejuvenate and revamp the economy, then we can have a different conversation altogether.
Well, I think also that one has come with the challenges of estimating when is it to exit from affirmative action.
Yes.
I think that is so ambiguous in the sense that government has not really come up with measures to determine that. But we have to admit the reality is that we have seen the effects of affirmative action. We've seen how it's propelled, young people from poverty or from oblivion to a state of where they can be economically independent and jumpstart them to participate in the economy and matters of this country. One of the issues that I have to opine is the fact that we as a country, historically speaking, we have legacies that are exclusionary, and the subset of identities that you just mentioned, people living with disability, some gender, generational differences, political exclusion, historical marginalization, determine the sense at which we lay a foundation of affirmative action. But I think one of the things that we've seen is that the processes of determining who is really the beneficiary of affirmative action has been an elusive issue. And the few that has found it correct, politically we've seen young people who've been nominated to these slots. And young women, we can talk about Millie Odhiambo, Rachel Shebesh, people who would actually, Isaac Mawaro, of course, we have a lot of issues to talk about that. Yes. But you could actually see from the sense that they were considered to some level to be given a jump starting in the political discourse. Equally young people. I think also where we are falling short is that we have really not audited these processes also. An elaborate process of clear auditing the functionalities and the failure of affirmative action activities like a youth fund. that was pioneered, and then it was metamorphosed and brought to another, another initiative. Have we audited properly what is the, the effects of, kazi mtaani, NYS, and, all other these procedures? But the moment we are not able to have a database and a very clear information, then we realize that the cycle of, an elusive affirmative action is still catching up to us. And I agree with what you've asked. Where is the determining guidelines, so the policies that will, give the government, a clear process of determining that now, I think it's important for us to cap it to another level or stop it altogether. Yeah.
All right, well, okay. And before we close this debate and get to the actual one of the day, we do not go without acknowledging that Mheshimiwa has a point, that there's some huge level of party interference. And I'd not want to call it interference, but it's just within the structures, like you rightfully put it, that sometimes, and it's across the world, where even when some of these people argue, they argue in the spirit of the party. Go to the United States, one of the largest democracies, they always argue in the spirit of the party. Well, that is not to say that you
but
do not
you have seen Congress has stood firm.
Yes, now that's the thing. That was my point.
The president tried to mutilate it.
That was the next point that I wanted. In as much as maybe there's that opening,
is to make sure that our agencies, our commissions, or our institutions are well safeguarded, and mutilation is not there. Because we find a situation where these parties even want to decide who is being elected the chairman of this point and this point and this. How and when?
In most
why are you not giving democracy? Why are not giving party democracy for these candidates to exercise their right in the house? Let me lose from not being voted for. But why do you just select somebody and force the other characters to go to that candidate? Maybe that candidate is a naive. He cannot even do anything. He cannot assist that committee, and you want to force the committee to go that direction.
If we're talking about democracy, then honestly, these are some of the things that we probably need to discuss. And today, Mheshimiwa is in Parliament. Tomorrow, it is me who's going to be in Parliament. And so some of these things we need to be privy to. We need to have conversations revolving around that. So how do we get to address this? How do we celebrate multipartism when such an occurrence still plays out? How do we celebrate party politics and ideologies and manifestos if such a scenario, and a bitter talking Mheshimiwa can really be witnessed in such, a podium this morning?
I agree with Mheshimiwa that even within the political party, like I said, if a certain political party has failed in having democracy within itself, we should not kill other political parties because of one party. If he has an issue with his party, I don't think other parties may not have same issue. We have seen
Irungu, you've been in the country. I would want to assume that you've been following up what plays out, and you can agree with me. That has got nothing to do with his party.
Regarding the interest of Jubilee, he is the most dictator party, and I can tell you, I am elected by the banner of Jubilee.
Look at what democracy means.
Yes,
because you cannot have your cake, eat it. If you feel this party. And I've said
go out and
on the ballot, we have over, I think, 60 plus registered parties in Kenya.
Plus independent tickets.
Yeah, plus now, even the Constitution gave us a leeway. If you do not subscribe to any political party ideologies, go independent. From president all the way to MCA.
Should we be subjecting Wajiko to by-election every other time?
So by the time we were getting there, what we should be looking at is
are we not considering these by-elections are taxpayers' money?
Parties, we are looking at strengthening, at having power or strength or democracy within the political parties. It is a process. Now we saw the impeachment in the US. It was Republican versus Democrats. At one point, Republicans saying we are dying with our person, and they saved him. So was it him or her? I'm not sure. So when we come to Jubilee Party, or when we come to Parliament, as Mheshimiwa is saying, what are the challenges that they are facing as a party in Parliament? Can they, within themselves, they have a, I believe they have a Jubilee Party parliamentary caucus. Yes, you have your leader. If let's say out of the 200, let's say out of the 113 Jubilee MPs, if I'm not wrong, 100 of them are not content with the way the party is being run within the assembly.
Punish them by striking them.
So 100 of them if they can write a complaint letter, because we have a problem when it comes to political parties and democracy in Kenya.
Okay.
They complain on the road, they complain on media,
But
but they never go official about it.
Well, they're going to be someone. Let's allow Dan come in, Mheshimiwa. Let's have Dan.
But me, I want to raise it on.
All right.
The reality is that we are envisioning party democracy.
Yes.
I mean, that is the ideal.
Yeah.
The reality is that that is not happening.
Yes.
Chama ziko na wenyewe.
Chama ziko na wenyewe. And I tend to feel, and you know, what Mahesh is talking about, that here is a party where you all subscribe to a party. You went through a nomination process with the same party.
Yeah.
You were given a ticket with the same party in a belief that from the party leader to the, you know, to the last member who is at the village understands the philosophy of the party, understand the manifesto, understand where the party is going to. And then all of a sudden, it turns out that the party is shifting to a different interest.
Yeah.
And you know, it is not only in Jubilee. We've had even in ODM, and I think you see what is happening in Coast.
Yes.
Aisha Juma is contesting, you know, the direction the ODM party has taken of late. You've seen a number of, it's not, and Irungo, this is, the reality is that, you know, the problem is that the leadership of the party, do we have a leadership of the party that determines the process of the party? And what is the constitution of each and every party? So if a party like Jubilee, who is a governing party, I don't like calling it a ruling party, but a governing party. If this is the party that has, you know, governed this country from 2013 and until now, then I think the belief is that when a party has to coalesce itself through a party's, you know, governing processes in the party structure, and if a party has not had, you know, a parliamentary group meeting, if a party has not, you know, convened a national governing council, if a party, you know, has not even, you know, if the truth is that there have been convention of these meetings, but the members' views have not been heard, then it's a problem in the party.
True.
And it's not only Jubilee, it's so many diverse party. So the question that we have even to understand as we go through even through this building bridges process and all political discourse is that we have, as citizens and the members of the party, has to discuss what is the take of the party membership in terms of aligning the interest of the party, removing the political leadership of that party. What is the stake of the party membership? What is the level of, you know, party members making a decision that the party leader and the members of parliament of that party has to abide by? This is a matter that even as we converse, that not only do voters meet at the ballot, what is their process that they meet at deciding the governing council of the party before coming to the ballot? Now, Jubilee has treated us to drama. And I think this is something that we really have to discuss. All the problems that we are having, even in the Nairobi City County, is a product of a skewed processes of party nomination. Why would Jubilee leader say that he initiated a process of removing Sonko if he's very well that even the process of giving us a candidate was through a parliamentary, it was through a political party leadership process? How would ODM tell us that we have a problem with the member of parliament in Aisha Jumwa if you gave us a candidate in the name of the ODM ticket in 2013 and in 2017? And this is what I am asking, that if the register of political parties that guide the Political Parties Act, if there is a clear process, a legal process, that if it's a party as becoming a party of squabbles, where members of parliament are beginning to lament about the functioning of the party, is it a good process to resign from the party and seek for, from a party ticket? Or is it a process of evicting and the next time forming a political party with a different name? Is it a violation of a political party act? And if that is it, what is the remedy that should be done to all the members of parliament or all the people or even the members of party that has been, that is a gross violation of political parties. So I think we are in a process where we really have to,
we really have to have a conversation on this. As we close on this subject.
Yeah, read. I just want to underline it because at least it's well spoken, and it's very important that, like the gentleman next to me, he really understands how these things are.
He's a member of
let us talk of democracy. Democracy starts from where? You cannot purport to be a democratic party if the leadership of the party is nowhere democratic.
Okay.
Because even though you are being nominated by a certain party and you went that process, you paid for it. You are not given a free ticket. You paid for the ticket. Is it okay? You can still line by the party policies and party blueprint's agenda. There's no problem. But the problem is when parties becomes one-man show, ridden by single individuals, it becomes what we call a briefcase party. Because actually you are not involving the owners of the party. Because I believe the owners of the party are the party members. If they are nowhere in decision making, the decision are made by one person. And you have witnessed Jubilee the other day. They ignored that there is somebody who lives in this country under the banner of deputy party leader.
All right.
Deputy party leader. And you found a situation where a Secretary General just texting to making a kind of an information or a communication.
Yes.
Saying we have decided that Musabweni we are not going to field a candidate. You have decided with who? When the deputy president in the office waiting for that discussion, he's already discussed elsewhere and decided. Then these are the parties who are telling these are the parties who are telling us that we be wrong. They are parties, yes, but the ideology is dead.
All right, we close it at that. We close this one at that.
Let me conclude and say the political party system in Kenya.
Brief.
Yes, the political party system in Kenya is undergoing a phase of metamorphosis whereby we are moving from KANU, the one-party system now, to multi-party system. And even if we look at the Political Parties Act, and today the taxpayers are funding parties. Because we have seen what Mheshimiwa is saying in play. So the best way to do that is to move the party from the owner to the people.
Okay.
That's why today every political party must have audited returns. We are funding our parties. Okay. So in the next maybe 10, 15, 20 years, we'll get there like they like the ANC in South Africa has moved, that they can whip a sitting president.
Yes.
They can tell you from today, we have expelled you from the party, you go. But the truth of the matter is, every politician today is a beneficiary of the weaknesses within the political parties.
All right. Okay, well, and there you go. I think we close this one. We'll have this conversation.
It is not the debate is not concludable.
It is not.
It's a process. It's a process.
Yes.
Only what I can say, it is very important to recognize that democracy is not in the forest. Democracy is not in the wild beast. Democracy is crafted by people, and it must be seen working, led by people. But when the people become dictators, dictates how this will be done, then where are the people? Because the executive or the team there at the top is the team to propel the party. But when it comes at the top is the owners of the party, then it lost the meaning. Right. And therefore, the party member feels he's not nowhere. This gentleman has talked about what we call parties conventionals, what we call parliamentary PGs. PGs in what we call Jubilee Political Party are nowhere. We just did one when you were elected.
You were part of the party. The other
at what point should you address your grievances if there is no room to address it?
Well, the argument at some point the other day, we said, you know what, if the DP, because probably he's the person in question, and one of the governance experts argued, if you are part and parcel of this, you are elected, your face was on the ballot paper, and then you come to say that you've been sidelined, and then that there's an intruder in the house, then it's evident that you either try to make sure the intruder is out because you must, you stand with authority, or you ship out yourself, resign. Well, whether there's an opening to that is a question that, I mean, we probably would want to discuss some other time. But here we are, now that we're talking about the DP. Let's get to the politics of that.
But that's why, leader.
Do you think that you are the
after a certain pressure, and somebody being locked out of his freedom to freedom to operationalize party. Because as a deputy party police,
who has locked him?
Party deputy leader.
Yes.
It means from the party leader is the deputy. Then the hierarchy, if the hierarchy is dead from that level, it tells you the deputy leader have no choice but to look for a certain independent vessel.
And this is a governing party that we're talking about. What is left of the common Mwananchi?
Which he cannot close for now because of our conditionality within our constitution. But it tells you very clearly, you must prepare to move out because inside here you are unwanted.
You know, after elections, every other Kenyan, now gets to that point where they are in one party, and that is the governing party. And so today, every other Kenyan is looking at Jubilee Party. And so when you tell us what it is that you're telling us today, well, we could worry about the politicians themselves, but then I am personally worried about the common Mwananchi. Who is to speak for us?
Let me ask the good Mheshimiwa, for that articulative, very, very articulated and pointing at the figure for where the problem is. So, Mahesh, are you in Jubilee or UDA? Because
Mahesh is in Jubilee.
In short, Rida, allow me to respond.
Yes.
Rida,
yeah.
I can tell you,
You are in Jubilee.
my body is in Jubilee. My heart is miles away. My heart are miles away.
Questions well answered.
I think that's well answered.
That is well
because I
answered.
agree.
Yeah.
The issue now is that the tone between the reality and the ideal is actually something that each and every political leader has to struggle with.
Yeah.
But I think moving forward is to provide an advice that I think Jubilee government would be rated by the performance after the end of the term. And Jubilee leadership, the house in the hill, Jubilee leadership begins by the leader. Like I said, down to the member down there. And therefore, any Kenyans who will be walking in the street after 2017 would ask, even Mahesh, who was in Jubilee, would not ask you about UDA. The question would be, what is your legacy?
That's the point.
In where you were elected. And I believe that the stakes are still there for the deputy president. As a deputy party leader, to convene and compel the leadership of Jubilee. That you see, our deliverables was based on our promises, in 2017, and even prior to 2013. And how we haven't been delivered would not be questioned by UDA. It would be questioned by the party that we are voted in. So it bequeathed the deputy president to convene, because I think the party leadership and the governing party, according to Jubilee Constitution, gives the deputy, the president, the mandate, to convene, because he is the deputy party leader, and all the constitutional powers that are given to the party leader is delegated to him. So I think whoever is messing up Jubilee, and let's be very open, is that the usurp of powers by the Jubilee General Secretary. That doesn't work, because in the order of a political party, there are structures in the organogram of the party to convene and decide. Equally to ODM, I think the issue about revamping these political parties must be devoid of the interference of the party leaders at the helm. And like is mentioned, if a party operates like a pyramid scheme, a pyramid scheme falls because the members within the tier and the middle of the scheme, if they don't participate, then there is a disintegration,
and then there's no more pyramid.
That is the exit that we are seeing, and it actually the tragedies of the political parties that we are having.
Okay, well,
and the reason why maybe you cannot find the DP convening the PG anywhere soon is the division between the party. The party is now totally divided into two. There is Kiereweke side and there's a Tanga faction. These two factions, there is no way the DP can convene and calm all of them. Therefore, he will convene, he will get only attendance from the Tanga.
We are months away to 2022 elections. What will happen to Kumi Yangu, Kumi Yako? I mean, privy to the fact that, well, we are in that era where we're talking politics of debt. You know, the Mount Kenya region owes so and so this. President Uhuru Kenyatta owes me another 10 because I supported them for 10. And, you know, President Uhuru Kenyatta is there by the virtue of the fact that, you know, President Moi, may his soul rest in eternal peace, you know, probably was paying a debt or a promise, was in a way trying to fulfill a promise that he gave to, you know, the bigger Kenyatta, that is Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, equally may his soul rest in eternal peace. The politics of debt.
May I can tell you, Linda, at this point in time, if I was the president, I would use the best wisdom. The best wisdom is to leave this country in peace and safe. How do you do this? Don't interfere. Don't intervene. Be independent. Allow the contender to move to the mass. Look for votes. Let the electoral commission do their part. Let them give us the winner of the race.
How realistic is this?
In that particular route, the president will never find any dot in the process. But once he wants to get into the market and telling us, this is my person, that person automatically becomes a project. And do you know how the project goes? The project always dies. They don't survive.
How realistic is it for President Uhuru Kenyatta to stay away from this with the interest of BBI, with, well, other conversations or other voices reminding him that he's too young to exit the stage, with the interests that are there, matters politics, with the dynasty talk, and equally the hustler talk?
The president can stay away as a person, but the presidency cannot, because it is a continuous administration.
Okay.
So the presidency cannot sit and wait for someone to just come and take over. There must be a succession. So when we talk about Yangu Kumi, Yako
Did
Kumi,
Kibaki participate in the succession?
Kibaki participated in 2013 succession.
Because he was appointed. How did he
not come out?
How did he?
As Kibaki the politician. He came out as Kibaki the president, who was handing over the presidency to Uhuru. That's what Mheshimiwa is trying to explain.
And I'm asking whether he interfered politically. Did he move to the mass to ask votes for Uhuru?
Uhuru has not.
He has not done that. The president has not done that so far.
And that is what we are urging. That's what we are urging and persuading our president to be partial in this process.
So now
when he move to an exit, where you leave this country united. You know, his participation will leave this country divided forever.
It means if he has to stay away, it practically means the Yangu Kumi, Yako Kumi dies and ends.
Wacha ishe. Wacha slogan ishe hiyo. Wacha Ruto ajitafutie kura zake. Wacha Raila ajitafutie kura zake.
Is it possible for
the
this to
deputy president and his people, including the deputy president himself, has been picking a microphone and saying, tuliahidiana na mheshimiwa na mdosi wangu Uhuru Kenyatta, akimaliza yake 10 na mimi niingie yangu 10. So he cannot, you people cannot be lukewarm. 1 minute when it favors you, you go for it. So next minute when, when it doesn't, then you go again.
That's politics. Politics is a game of interest.
So if we talk about that way, then the president as a person also has interest.
Well, in this case, will it be in the best interest of the president to literally take a back seat? Well, if at all he's going to shelve his own interest, because then we're looking at Right Honorable Raila Odinga, we are looking at the DP, whom they have worked together, and we also look at what it is that Raila spoke about the other day. We are looking at the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, not forgetting Gideon Moi.
Well, I think this is very elaborate, Linda, and I would really candidly talk about this. The politics of this country, and I agree that there is always a sense in which everybody wants the debt, the promise to be delivered.
Yes.
And we are facing a situation where, there is a Pandora's box open that, you promised me, and you have to deliver it.
Yes.
And my two colleagues, including Mahesh, the reality is, according to the interview that we saw, Honorable Raila is actually giving us a track of how the Luo community had to compromise, not once and not twice, to give, to allow the Kikuyu community to take leadership. From 1958 down to 2005, around 2002. And that is a fact.
And they were expecting a favor in
That is a fact.
Okay.
So I think when we are here, we really have to candidly talk about.
But I still hope that was meaningless.
Because contested legacies of unfulfilled boardroom promises. Let me call it that, because it is the same problem that we are having when we make deals, including what we talked about at the beginning, that when you handshake in a two gentlemen's agreement, it remains a discussion between the two of you. Then it metamorphosizes to be a public interest discussion. The same that you go to a public rally and say that I'm serving for 10 terms, and the other one is serving for 10 terms, minus a solidly MOU that is not within the public domain. And therefore, the only public is drawn into this discussion when these MOUs are violated. Then it becomes a question of communities now discussing against communities. Remember, it was a two gentlemen's agreement. So this is my advice to our friends from Mount Kenya. And I think the issue that is happening right now, and I like putting things on the table, all these voters have perceived these very nice vote-rich regions as a region that cannot be trusted, because there's been a systematic violation of memorandum of understanding, and it's historical. And the only thing that these nice people need to discuss is that even as we move to consolidate our region in preparation for BBI, in preparation for 2022, the context is that Raila is open that he wants a reward back. The context is that William Ruto wants a hand back. And Mudavadi also has, everybody is coming to claim.
And what's more confusing is that there's not a clear and distinct, picture as to what it is that the Mount Kenya seeks to offer. So it looks like it's a swing. More of a swing region where now everyone can go there and dangle the carrots.
The reality is that it's a region that determines. Let us talk about reality. The reality is that the region that determines each and every presidency for a long time. And therefore it means that the view about the other outside voters is that if we find favor in the eyes of Mount Kenya and their support, then I think this comes very important and very handy. Now, Linda, the reality again is that the assumption, and this is the assumption, Mheshimiwa Gakuya, the assumption is that the formation of Building Bridges Initiative, the formation of the two gentlemen's agreement, is that we've had a problem between the Luos and the Kikuyu. And if they shake hands, then it means that they can get, we can get
from
going.
This other end.
So there it means that what happens to the deputy president? What happens to all these other leaders who are not necessarily from these other ethnic communities? What happens to them? Is our handshake becomes the overall handshake for the whole community? Or is it a precedence that will reach out to the other people? The deputy president has to, the president has to leave, and I agree with what Mheshimiwa is talking about. Do not be seen as a person who is fronting another candidate. Because this has been a problem. This has been a problem. Why other people are still having issue with the Moi family is simply because he fronted Uhuru Kenyatta in 2002. The problem that we are seeing also with other successive regions, I think Kibaki find it so nicely, that even as, nobody is devoid of interest. He had interest in his successor, but then it was not open interest. He wanted the country that, moves forward economically. Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta should avoid that. The deputy president also, and I agree with what he's talking about, his consolidation on the voting area has been devoid about debts. He said that you don't need to refund me because mine is unity. What I have a problem about is the philosophy that I think we might we should find time
to discuss this. All right. The Mount Kenya people are here.
It's well put. It's well put. I have nothing to add. Those sentiments are very clear. It stands for the clear position, and that should be the roadmap. Because surely we don't need to have a succession that will still leave us into another dilemma. If the president want to do this Kenya anything good for now, allow Raila Odinga to move to the mass, let him compete with the rest of contenders.
Just how sellable is he in the Mount Kenya region now that you come
around
from there?
Mudavadi to go and hand votes in Mount Kenya.
Yes.
Around William Ruto to go and hand votes from Mount Kenya region. Because let me tell you,
if you have political interest,
even though Mount Kenya region seems or look to be a stronghold for the head of the state,
yes,
the head of state enjoyed votes all over the country. So in this particular case, he must not narrow himself to that particular kingpin or king leader.
Politics is a game of interest.
No,
when you come together as a handshake and you have interest.
But going to the tag he's carrying a national tag as the symbol of unity for the country. We have nobody else to watch. If he gets himself into that particular exercise of a-sided politics, what will be the outcome? That the president favored a certain person.
In a way, Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been unpopular in the Mount Kenya region.
So that I conclude.
Yes. Do not conclude just far.
No.
All right.
In this particular case, in this particular case,
yes.
Say you are the head of the house.
Okay.
I am the father. I have 5 children. They all need their share. Suppose they want to compete for a certain thing. Should I start with one, or should I allow them democratically to compete? So I can only release the handle to the winner. And that's
so it's never fair. At some point in time, there has to be a winner. All right. This is a game of interest,
yes,
and I would want to agree with Mheshimiwa, to a larger extent. But then again, it's a game of interest. It's a game of what it is that Daniel speaks about. It's a region where, instrumentally and historically has determined who's going to be at the top of the helm.
Okay.
You seek endorsement. You seek to look at your friend and see, what can you do to bring onto this side of mine? So at least I'm able to find myself there. And we all know the unpopularity that sits, in the heads of these individuals in terms of, trying to woo the people of Mount Kenya. Just how possible is it for them to go out there, sell themselves without the endorsement of one of the key figures on this particular region?
Okay, Mheshimiwa and my friend here, they are saying what needs to be done. But we are at a stage that we must look at ourselves from where we've come from. We've come from a region where Mount Kenya region, Luo, the Lakeside region, they are regions that have been a no-go zone for politicians who do not come from those regions. That is for a fact. And today, what President Uhuru has looked at is he has looked at a scenario where how do we end this? First things first. It doesn't matter who Mount Kenya region listens to, but how do we make it easy for everybody to go there? Because we cannot say that Mount Kenya region will listen to Mudavadi and not listen to Gideon Moi. We'll listen to Raila and not listen to Ruto. We'll listen to Ngilu and not listen to Waiguru. So how do we make it possible that any aspirant can walk into Mount Kenya, sell his or all her candidature, walk out without being victimized? Because the politics of victimization has been based in regions. We saw the by-election in Kibra. We Jubilee Party went. ODM, in the past, that could have been a no-go zone for an ODM candidate.
Yes.
Last year, the by-election.
Yeah, the by-election, we saw Jubilee Party hold rallies in Kibra constituency. Let's look at facts as they are. We saw Jubilee Party hold by-elections,
but endorsing who?
Backyard.
Hold it right there. Holding rallies there, but endorsing who? A candidate of ODM.
No.
Well, they had a chance to have Mariga and all that.
Yeah, the Jubilee Party had a candidate.
Yes.
Yes, and the candidate campaigned without even a single insult.
Okay.
Leave alone violence.
Until for a moment he just said William Ruto, because evidently Mariga, was positioned
Mariga
as
was
a William
Party candidate, and the deputy party leader came in and
well, at least he got the blessings of the president.
So now,
okay,
fine. Moving forward, Mount Kenya has been a no-go zone.
How?
For anyone.
How?
For anyone who is not from the mountain. For anyone who's not from the mountain.
I can tell you, if there is a peaceful region in terms of receiving contenders, it's Mount Mount Kenya. Don't mix, and we are not violent.
So
But Waiguru speaks of a scenario where you can only be rented but not be...
Later, we have been seeing markets elsewhere.
Okay.
But let me tell you, let us not put words in the Mount Kenya region's mouth.
Okay.
These people are very peaceful. I can tell you for sure.
But they said they can only be rented. That is
leader. What? A minute.
Let me finish then.
Raila is heading there at Keno. I don't know if that's today or tomorrow.
Yes.
Just watch. No single stone will be thrown.
Yes.
He will walk. He will find the masses waiting for him. The Mount Kenya are very wise.
But they will listen.
They will listen for him.
Will this amount to
what we are supposed to do at the end of the day? What we are supposed to do at the end of the day is to leave the democracy to work.
Okay.
Go there, talk to them, ask for votes. Leave them there.
Do they eventually amount to votes?
That's what the president has been doing. Setting a platform, setting a platform where anyone can go anywhere in this country and ask for votes, and their supporters will not be victimized, whether it's one vote or two. So when we look at succession, from that angle, we can see what the president is doing. He's setting a platform whereby, because the politics of an incumbent wanting to give us
preferred candidate.
Yes, it's because he should
alifanya kampeni aruhusiwa mayo wapi Kenya.
Hold it right there. Coming to you, Dan, the cost of tribalism has been real and expensive as witnessed, and most of these leaders have played the tribal card. But today it bites back on them, and they never seem to probably learn, because right and again they'll get into the old usual ways. So when you look at this scenario, and sometimes it's true, you can have a very fair and square ground to go and politic, but does it amount to votes, which is actually what it is that you're looking for?
Yeah, and you see, coupled with that, Linda, we've seen videos on social media, guys being heckled.
Yes.
In
Mount Kenya region, just the other day.
Just the other day. The issue about what Irungu mentioned, hostilities.
Yes.
Whenever you stand to address a party, somebody somewhere comes with a wheelbarrow. You don't know where he's getting it from, and a spade, and equally in other parts of the country, we've seen people heckling the deputy president and all other.
The unfortunate Kenol occurrence the other day was terrible. Yes.
So I think. The tussle that is within the region, and I'm still appealing to Mount Kenya, is that, I tend to feel that probably what happened was an indoctrination of, and a profiling of certain individuals. And it so happens, and what you've asked is so real, it so happened that this was so much ingrained in people's mind, in their culture, in a sense that by anybody trying to undo it, then it backfires right now. I think that is the reality, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. So there is a sense in which the chickens will always come back home to roost. And this is very difficult to unlearn. And my appeal is that the reason the president has to stay out of this is one, and I said this, as a leader of Jubilee Party, after 2022, we meet Uhuru Kenyatta and see him on restaurant, talking to people. People will ask him, as a leader of a Jubilee Party, and as a leader of a governing party, and as a symbol of national unity, why did you leave the country so disunited? As a symbol of, as a president who chanted the manifesto of Jubilee, why is the Big Four agenda in tatters? Nobody will ask Deputy President because he'll be campaigning for a presidential candidate.
Yes.
Nobody is going to ask, Raila Odinga, who dissociated himself again with the failures of Jubilee Party. So I am empathizing for one man, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, because the history will judge him as a president who is the pioneer of Big Four agenda that failed. Equally, I agree with Irungu that you see, when he was asked what would be your legacy agenda, he said, I want to be remembered as a president who did two things, tackle corruption and united the country. And I think coupled with the Big Four agenda, this is where the president would actually put his head into. And I think the interest right now that I also need to question politically, why don't you face your people? What is this issue about addressing your people over the radio? If you are a kingpin of a region, if you decide on the ascendancy, I think it will bequeath you to go directly, face Mount Kenya, who you still serve as a kingpin, and tell them, you know, this is a result of my changes. This is why I'm supporting BBS.
Is it valid to question his mode of communication at that point? He was able to reach.
It's taken him long.
Yeah.
It's taken him long
to address,
to face. And I think there are plans for him. I think the president, as the head of state, would be very devoid in terms of holding meetings in Sagana with members of parliament twice. You know, if members of parliament are not toying, if they are running away from him and forming UDA, I think it's important for him to go and face the voters and tell him what is necessitating this change. Well, and lastly, for DP, I think we would be very open and candid. You know, he's a man that is torn between duty and ambition. And I think it has come a time when the DP has to make a very clear stand. If he is not in agreement of what Jubilee Party faces, I think the most honorable thing is for him to say, you know, I supported this party, and I was a second principal assistant of the president, and right now it seems these guys are ejecting me. The most honorable thing to do is to resign from his position as a deputy party leader and chant the ways of UDL. That history will judge him as a person who, even as he champions for the hustler narrative, I think that brings him as a person who is very honest in his dealing, and as a person who respects the leadership and the constitution of the party. But if he appears one leg in Jubilee and the other one in UDA, I think that leaves an egg on his face. And
it is justified for the president to sideline him?
It's justified for the president to sideline based on that. And it also shows
Gentlemen, we're closing.
He's a person who is not honest with his dealing. So I think this would be advisable. And Jimmy Gakuya, I think one of the issues that people are actually really not palatable with the UDA is the fact that in one end, you champion for the interest of exclusion, but bashing the political leadership of the party. This is going to backfire because I might not really be pro Uhuru Kenyatta. I might not really be pro Raila Odinga. But I might have some opinion and some soft spot for deputy president based on his ideology. But the moment you appear to be insulting the head of state, the moment you appear to be rebuffing the head of state in a sense that is not really, you know, appealing to me, then I think that sways aside.
All right, so we're closing down.
I think it's advisable for us to, you know, to advise this political party.
Thank you so much, Dan Orongo. That should be your closing remark. And to you, 30 seconds. Justified that the president is sidelining the DP, and are you in agreement that indeed he should take a back seat on this?
Let me conclude by saying, first let me give you greetings from my small nephew. He's called Dash.
Hi. 4 years, thank you.
So he has used to go to school this morning because I'm
so it's on TV. Send our love back to him. Thank you.
So let me say, the president, and like you're saying, we are putting the president into a fixed status. One moment, he should not interfere. One moment, he should put his house in order, which calls for action. So if he has to put his house in order,
he has to crack down.
As my friend is saying here, because we will ask him what he did. So for him to put his own, for him to put his house in order, he must take action. And that action means getting some people out. Because I can quote the number of times he have given instructions, even asked for members to, let's not do this for now, let's focus on this, 2022 will come, then all of us will be there. And I remember at one point he even said, sijai ahidi mtu kitu. Mimi Raila, our last meeting in State Road, he said, him and Raila have not talked about 2022 elections. Raila recently on TV, he said, they have never discussed about 2022 elections. So where is this perception from UDA that Uhuru has abandoned Ruto for Raila? It is because Uhuru succession, he's looking at living a united nation, not through just people coming together and saying, okay, hold hands up. No, he's saying, now we need to clear what my colleague here is saying. A historical narrative that has been set within communities against it, against an individual or against an individual from that community.
Well, the pushing of the BBI, many argue that in a way there is really no genuineness in the president saying that he wants to leave unity.
Now, to close on this,
yes,
President Kibaki spent, I think, over 2-3 years without stepping in Nyeri County.
Okay.
So it's not that
he has to go to the people.
He has to go to people every other day.
Okay.
Uhuru,
let's close it. Go.
I think every other year,
yes,
he makes sure that at least he meets people. Apart from last year,
okay,
he meets people at State Road, Sagana. He attends the burial somewhere. He attends the church service somewhere in Mount Kenya. He goes. It's only that we need to reduce the political presence in our nation and increase governance presence.
Thank you so much, Irongo. Thank you so much.
Well,
I know you have to say less than a minute. But I want you to answer this question.
Next time I will not allow
No. I want to see. Yeah.
Because I'll be forgotten. Yes,
Let's close it, sir. As we say, do you suppose? Hold it right there. Let me ask this question before you answer that one. Do you agree that you owe Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the Mount Kenya region?
We don't owe him. Okay. We don't owe him.
Well anything. Answered. Let's proceed to your party.
Yes, a leader I also wanted to start from there. It is very important that leader has come up very clearly and very categorically on the area he was appealing and persuading Mount Kenya to consider him at this particular point. But one, issues to do with Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi, those are already late and gone. And Raila has no room to claim. Issue to do with any arrangement between him and the memorandum with Kibaki. Kibaki is exited from the arena of presidents. He's at home. There is no way you can pass that baton to the Mount Kenya region. They were not part of the MOU. The MOU was private. It was not public. The only leader, let me finish.
Okay.
The only point I can start with is that, Raila is the one who messed the then Naki government during the referendum like this we are heading. When he introduced orange and Kibaki was in banana. And when the orange turns the banana, Kibaki has no choice. The constitution then was that it was no room to allow somebody who has already thrown you. It's like Ruto voted Kibaki out of the government by that vote of referendum. And what Kibaki did is that Kibaki did his arithmetic and realized that, yes, am I going to be able to complete my term with this body of a person?
Right.
Then he decided to throw them off, and that's what he did, so that he can be able to complete his term.
Okay.
And you remember very well what happened to 2007 heat.
Yes, as we
it
call
became so heated that actually we are forced to be won by United States.
Yeah.
Yes. It is outside forces which manages this country to back to its level, where Accord was introduced. But today, the community, during a daytime rally in Nakuru, all of us heard the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta making a convention that leo tuko hapa na waomba munipe yangu 10 na nikimaliza ya Ruto 10. Kwa hivyo akasema Naki ina miaka 20 bila tukate. So whatever brought the change of tone. The change of tone. It's what but the president has not let me finish.
Yes.
What the president required to do is very serious, that actually he got a second vote from the original. He needs to tell Mount Kenya that the position we were in 2013
is the same
has totally changed, and the baton has switched from what I told you. It's no longer 10-10. It is another dimension. Then you tell...
Will that not be interfering again with the politics of the day, like you have said?
Listen. Then you tell them what it cost you to change the election. As of now, because that convention was doing a day right,
does he need to speak or keep silent?
The Mount Kenya has owned it, and they feel that they have a debt to pay. Whether Ruto has come out clearly saying there is no debt, as we believe there is. And we have to pay
All
back.
right, well, now
And we
that
have
is
to pay
double
back.
speak, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
I wish we had more time. We could have expounded some more on that. But thank you so much, Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, and governance experts, Daniel Orogo and Irungu Goko. It was good having you this morning. We look forward to another session like this one some other time. We cross over to a different discussion altogether after this short break on matters and rest in schools. Thank you.